And we are live. Hello and welcome to part two, the second breakfast, as it were, of our One Ring book club. You will know, of course, Paul, our resident expert, who is just showing me his One Ring credentials. And I remember when it first came out years ago, I happened to be in Forbidden Planet in New Oxford Street, I think it was then. I can't remember where it is now. And I said, "Oh, I remember seeing that slipcase with. It didn't last very long with the die set in, and there it is, Paul. There it is. So definitely an old hand at the game of the One Ring.
One of my group only has this book.
Excellent. And over here, up there, we've got our not an expert, but if we have time, Bruce, you're going to be GMing us and running us through a little brief encounter if we've got time. But first of all, we've got lots of stuff that we didn't get to talk about last time that we felt we should talk about this time. And that's going to include councils and travel and advancement and the adversaries as well. Let us start with councils first of all, though, shall we? Now, I was liking the council rules. First of all, there is always there's a bunch of people that says, I don't want to roll a dice for social encounters. I want to use my own wit and intellect for that. And I kind of want to say, well, I'm a trained swordsman, so when we get to the fighting scene, why don't we do our own our own wit and intellect for that too? And so I kind of like social roles, but one of the challenges I think of a lot of them is that they are over in one role, and it doesn't feel to me like a conversation should be like that. And so when I was looking at these council rules, I was thinking, we started a podcast about Coriolis. I love Coriolis. I really resent the manipulation role in Coriolis being the one crit fix or whatever you want to do here. And I was thinking I could use an adaptation of this council role for the sort of stuff, the sort of social encounters I think we should be having in Coriolis. And it's the first time I've seen something that actually, truth be told, it's the second time, but this is, in my head, I could see how I could get this to work in Coriolis. So I like councils.
It's almost like the skill challenges that you used to have in D&D. It's a sort of similar sort of idea to that. It's similar to what you have in first edition.
Many changes from first edition.
Not really. There is some changes, but they've sort of flipped it on its head. In first edition, you set a tolerance, and the tolerance was how many failures you could make. And then once you hit that number of failures, you count up all your successes, and that's how successful the conversation was. In second edition, what you do is you set a target, which is the difficulty of the conversation, and that difficulty is also the number of skill rolls that you can make. So it doesn't matter how many failures you make. If at the end of the number of skill rolls that you have to make, I think it's 3, 6, or 9. If you haven't made 3, 6, or 9 successes, you fail. Basically, you fail at the council or whatever you were trying to do.
So that's interesting. So I like that count up on successes rather than counting down on failures.
It's a more positive spin.
And actually that's one of the things that inspired me. Bruce, what are your thoughts on councils?
I mean, I took another quiet read through it. I mean, it's an interesting setup because it's quite a big social interaction with multiple skills with it, 2 parts to it, setting up the duration. The only thing I guess get a little bit concerned is I can feel it being quite heavy on dice rolling a lot. So, and I know there is a section and a paragraph in there that's trying to encourage players to be more narrative and bringing that bit into it. But it is an interesting take on social interactions, and it's not just like a quick chat or just roll one set of dice. You're building up support for why you should be doing whatever is agreement. Let's say permission to cross the lands or gain support. There is a lot in there, and there's a lot of options for players how they want to do it. Because Riddle does seem to be almost the questionable manipulation, but not in a negative way that you're deceitful or lying. You're putting it in a way like how Gandalf portrays it if you're picking anything from the source material. So there is a lot of good use of the social skills in there and giving players the opportunity to how they're going to inspire or interact. And it's not just for one. It does feel like everybody can jump in and this is how they're going to pitch and get everybody inside.
Now, I ought to say, we've all created characters for our encounter that we might be doing later on. And I am in love. Let me first of all say about character creation. We talked about it last week. But, reading it and actually doing it for the first time, which I've done now, to be honest, when I backed the One Ring, I was backing it partly because I love Free League and I knew it would look lovely. And there were certain things as well when they talked a bit about what the interior design was going to be like, I knew I was going to love it. And so I really backed it for that. I didn't really back it with any intention of playing it until they announced maybe the solo rules, simply because, your patrons, you see how many games we play. Seriously, I've never gamed this much in my entire life, and there's not much more time. So I wasn't ever expecting to play it, but now I've created this character. I really, really, really want to play this. I don't even know if it's any good. I rolled it up randomly. I made one choice, I think, where I didn't agree with the dice roll. But I love this character, and I want to play it. And he can sing. And what I liked about the council rules is a lot of the other skills are very specific to doing a particular task, but singing just added your successes to any old thing. So I thought, I'm there. I can do those long poems that Tolkien writes.
Well, it's sort of the idea behind councils is you sort of like have an interaction, and then you ask the players, well, what you're trying to get out, and then how you're broaching it or how you're trying to do it. And when I ran it last Wednesday, and we had a little mini council where they were trying to basically, the 3 players that were available that weren't watching the football, where they basically were trying to get into Thranduil's court. Mm-hmm. So one of the hobbits basically he started singing a song. He said, well, I'll just I'll sing a baldy song. So I said, give me a roll. So, and he was describing roughly what he was trying to do just to entertain the the butler, Thranduil's butler, and he got two T's. He got 2 6s. So it was like, so yes, and slowly you get more people gathered round, and they were slowly catching and picking up on the chorus and joining in, and they just succeeded straight away, because I set a very simple target of 3. So they succeeded on that one roll. So that was and the player was getting quite into it, because he basically got them entrance into Thranduil's in court, and they spent a couple of days basically
crying over that. Excellent. I love that. I love that. So that's councils. Anything else you want to say on councils?
No.
Good. Saves time for the fight at the end. So conversely, there was me saying, oh, great, my character can sing. He can do pretty much anything in the council because he's got the singing ability. Whatever we decide to do as a party, he can support that with a lovely song or bit of lore or something like that.
One thing to remember with council, is you can only ever use one skill once. So if you use song, if somebody in your group uses song, nobody else can use that unless you spend the point of hope, and then you can use it a second time, and then that's it.
Right.
So you have a limited. So in other words, if it was a 9 difficulty council, you need to get 9 successes, but you've got a limited number of a limited number of skills, obviously. So every success reduces that pool of skills that you have. So it's that. So just because it's 9 doesn't mean you've still got 9 dice rolls, but you've got less skills. So it makes it
because you've got to but it does involve then everybody in the party contributing what they can. I love that. I love that.
It works.
But conversely, in travel,
I
don't have many skills that are applicable to travel, and so I'm a bit worried by that. And in fact, just before we started streaming, when Paul and I were online, I was saying, I'm looking at the travel rules. What can I do? I can only do one thing. Well, Paul pointed out what I can do, but Paul, do you want to start off by just talking briefly about travel, particularly about, I've seen some of the concern on social media that travel is really hard compared to first edition.
It looks hard in first edition. Basically, what you do in travel, these are the first edition maps. You count the number of hexes that you travel, basically, between obviously your destination and where you leave from. Each hex is 10 miles. You then divide that total number of mileage with modifiers by depending on what time of year it is, and then every single period, usually between 4 and 6 days, you make a travel roll. That's everybody in the party makes a travel roll. Now, if anybody fails or gets, it triggers a encounter. I think if you get an Eye of Sauron, it triggers an encounter. That encounter then basically will affect one of the party. Now, this is the same for all versions of travel. You effectively have 4 rolls in a journey.
So help me out with travel.
Yep.
If we all make a travel roll, I've got 0 travel.
Yes.
What am I rolling? Just a D12?
Just a D12, which is basically the feat dice. So
what that means,
if you fail, you take fatigue. So in other words, depending on the amount of fatigue you take depends on the time of year, basically, and how much gear you're carrying.
And my target number is my heart target number?
No. Okay, so in the second edition, yes, it's your heart target number. But second edition is different to first edition.
Right.
The way they've done it. So in first edition, everyone make the travel rolls. In second edition, only one person makes a travel roll, which is the guide.
Right. Gotcha. So okay.
In all editions, there's 4 different roles. You have a guide. Only one person can ever be a guide. One player can be a guide.
Mm-hmm.
So
and that's not me.
It's whoever's got the best travel skill, basically.
Yeah.
You have the hunter, which is the person who's basically charged with finding food.
Who's got the best hunting skill, I imagine.
Which has the best hunting skill. Yeah. You've got the lookout, which is basically the person who's basically looking out for trouble.
Okay.
Who's basically the person with the awareness.
Awareness, good. So that's probably my role because I can do that.
Yep. Then you have the scout, which is the person who's basically looking for setting up camps and looking for new trails and things like that. And that's the person with explore. Mm-hmm. Now, you can have multiple hunters, lookouts, and scouts, but you can only ever have one guide, and you can only ever do one roll.
Right.
Now, this ensures that at least every single person in the party is doing something, and you don't get the situation that you sometimes get in other game systems where you go, well, I need a perception roll, and everyone rolls it.
Mm-hmm.
Only the lookout person would roll that awareness roll.
Yeah.
So it's sort of it ensures that there's not too many rolls going on. It means that only one person or maybe 2 people, depending on how many lookouts there are, is involved. So that's basically the rolls. The way that journeys work in second edition is the guide makes a travel roll. If that's successful, you get to travel, I think it's 3 hexes. Now the hexes in second edition are 20 miles. So effectively a hex is meant to be a day's travel. Mm-hmm. As far as I understand it. Again, we are just going from what's been posted on the internet because nobody's seen a a hex,
A finished map. Yeah.
a finished map, basically,
Yeah.
because there's lots of other stuff that they talk about in the rules that we are guessing about. So and that tells you when you are going to get an encounter. So it will be after I think it's 2 hexes if you fail the roll, 3 hexes if you succeed, plus 1 for every single 6 that you get every T. So on the every Tengwa that you get on the D6, basically. So every 6 you get to go in another hex before you get an encounter.
Right. And encounters, Mohammed asks a pertinent question here. Is there then a table for encounter questions?
Sort of. If you go to page 111.
We can share this, in fact. Give me a moment. I can take us to page 111 very shortly. Actually, I have to take you to my character sheet first. There we go. And then we'll change that to, oh, God. Where's it gone? There we go. To that one there. And we are on
111.
111, 41. So whiz down here. Come up a bit.
It's at the top of page 111. So that's 112. Sorry.
There we go. So this table here.
So that table there. So what happens is the GM rolls on that once an encounter occurs. Just rolls a feat dice. He also rolls on the event target. So that's basically on page 113.
Right.
And that determines whether it's a random player.
Just have to go to the double page spread for this one.
Yeah, that's cool. whether it goes to because that dragon is awesome,
isn't it? Yes.
Whether it, you can see it hits a scout, the lookout, the hunter, the guide, or a random player character. And what they do is they make a dice roll, and then depending on if they succeed or not, you get either the negative connotations that the table says, something bad happens to the group if they fail, and you all suffer the fatigue, irrespective of whether they succeed or not.
Right. So
this is what people are worried about in 2nd edition, because every single time you get an encounter, you get fatigue, and if your fatigue and your load gets over your endurance, you become weary. So people are saying basically, no matter what, you're going to be weary at the end of every single journey. And again, we'll just have to. Again, I haven't played it, so I'm literally the first thing I'm going to be doing a week tomorrow, when I run my game again, is we're going to be doing our first journey.
Okay.
So,
well, let's talk a little bit about fatigue then. How do we recover fatigue?
You can only recover fatigue if you are in a structure, a nice, cozy structure, basically, what they're saying. So you can't recover it when you're on the road. Right.
So if we're camping, we can't recover.
Nope. Now, there is a way just before it ends, you get to, at the end of the journey, you can recover some of your travel fatigue. If you have a little bit of a long rest, they call it a prolonged rest, you can recover. It reduces your fatigue by 1 or 2 points, basically, depending on what you roll.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that'll be a travel roll plus. If you pass that, you get 1, and then
you get 1 back.
Yeah, for 1 extra 6 you get on your success dice, you get an additional 1 back.
And does everybody make that travel roll, or is that one only the guide makes?
All player heroes, everybody. Right. It's on page 111 of the rules.
It's sort of representing how well you dealt with the fatiguing travel, basically.
Right. So rather than failing a travel roll, but in the 1st edition, everybody get fatigue, but they've all got to make a travel roll. In this case, everybody gets fatigue still,
Yep.
But you can recover fatigue with successful travel rolls.
Yes, but it's on average you're getting somewhere between 2 and 3 fatigue per encounter. You're going to be lucky to get 2 or 3 fatigue back in that final travel roll.
Particularly if you have no travel skill.
Particularly if you have no travel skill, you're going to be lucky to get 1 back.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, shall we stop showing for a moment and move on, shall we, to what comes after travel? Something beginning with A. Well, actually, we've got 2 things beginning with A. We've got adversaries and we've got advancement.
Advancement, yeah.
Yeah. Shall we do adversaries first? I think thematically they seem to follow on from travel, don't they? So, I mean, when we talk about adversaries, we're talking about the bestiary and I guess the evils that men do, because us elves are blameless, by the way. But we can see the shadow that links the world of men, I think, or something. I'm sure I read that in the book somewhere. So what do we think of adversaries? How do they compare with first edition?
They're roughly the same. They have changed some stuff. They simplified them, making it a little bit more easy. Obviously, they've changed the way that the parry works, so they've sort of reduced their parry level. Before, things like if you look on page, where is it? Like a goblin archer had 2 parry. Now it's got -1 parry. It's just because obviously the target numbers have increased. They've changed the way that parry works for adversaries. So now goblin archers are slightly easier to hit. So if you've got a target number on your strength of 15, it means to hit a goblin archer you need a 14.
Right.
So they've changed that slightly. They've also added this new thing called might, which is basically how tough the creature you are fighting. The more might that it got, the more damage, and the more you have to wound it before it falls over, basically. Before, they used to use this thing called great size in first edition, which was basically the same. Normally, a normal player person can take 1 wound or lose all their endurance. If they use all their endurance, they go unconscious. If they take a wound, if they take a second wound, they fall unconscious as well. Now, with something with great size, they can take a wound, lose all their if they lose all the endurance, they have to take a wound before they go down, because they're that big, basically. And they've changed that to be this thing called might in second edition. Things like trolls have got might 2, and a great orc chief might have might 2.
Right. So is it simpler for a GM, do you think, to run?
Yes, because you don't have to remember the awkward rules. Things like if something with great size in first edition lost all its endurance, it becomes weary. So, and then remembering that was sometimes difficult. And then it was just a bit rubbish because they run out of endurance. Then people keep on hammering on it, and I don't know if basically, if they keep on hammering on a bad guy, they're not taking any more endurance damage because their endurance has been reduced to 0. So that was just a little bit rubbish for the players anyway, which I think they've got rid of.
Now, this touches a little bit on combat, and maybe we didn't finish combat properly, and maybe running through it, if we've got time to do that, will be a good thing. But I was struck by, and again, it comes up in Character Generation. It wasn't something I particularly noticed, that you have damage and injury scores for for weapons. How are they? How do they work? How are they different?
So basically, the damage does damage straight to endurance.
Right.
So it reduces the endurance of the creature that you're hitting by whatever the damage rating on the weapon is. So for a spear, I think it's like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
For a sword, it's 4 or 5.
And given that we're looking at an orc here having endurance of 45, that's not going to do much.
That's a great orc.
Right.
Remember?
Oh yeah, great orc chief.
That's a great orc chief.
Yeah. Okay. Let's scroll down and get some more mediocre orc, shall we? There we go.
If you're looking,
an orc guard has an endurance of 16. Gotcha.
Yeah. So orc guard endurance of 16. So they get hit by a sword, but they'll do 4 points of damage. A long sword, it's 5 points of damage. Right. Or they get hit by like a great axe, something like Gimli used to use, which does 7 points of damage. And that knocks their endurance down.
Yeah.
If you roll a 10 or a Gandalf on your feat dice, you get what they call an edge. You got potential of doing a wound. Now, what that means is they then get to roll their protection rating. You can see each of the guys have got an armor rating on the. And what they do is they roll the number of dice equal to that armor rating plus a feat dice, and they've got to beat the injury. If they beat the injury, they haven't been wounded. If they don't beat the injury, they're wounded. And if they are something with might 1, you've taken them out. So if you wound a normal adversary with 1 might, he's out of the fight.
He's out. You've taken him out. Yeah, gotcha. Whatever endurance he had.
No matter what endurance left he has. Something with might 2, I think you have to injure twice. And I think they go up to might 3 and 4, but I don't think any.
Let's go and check out those great orc chieftains, shall we?
The great orc chieftain's got a might 2.
Yes. And then maybe some other creatures, trolls.
Yep, and also they can attack with something with a higher mount. They can attack multiple heroes and around as well. I'm
not seeing off this current scan through anything with a might as much as 3, but I'm not saying they don't exist.
I'm guessing there'll be. I'm surprised. Stone Troll Chief. No, Stone Troll Chief would be about the only thing that I could. Oh no, Great Cave Troll is the toughest thing in the game so far, which is on page 150.
Great Cave Troll up here, 65 endurance, still only might 2 though.
Might 2, but it does have attribute level of 10, which is it gives you its equivalent. Effectively, it's what you use instead of its strength. It's wits and heart.
So this parry score basically +2. How does that work for this Cave Troll Slinker?
With a parry of +2, it means that when you're attacking it, you add 2 to your strength target number, and that's the target number that you need to hit.
Right. So this one is +2. I've got 15. Now I've got to roll 17.
You need a 17 or better to hit it.
But there are some that have got -2 because they're so.
Because they're very easy to hit, and some, like a Stone Troll Chief, which is on the opposite page, has got a +3.
And -1 here for this Goblin Archer. Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah.
Cool.
So
excellent.
Basically how it works. In the old rules, different weapons had different edges. So in other words, at the moment, it's be able to get a wounding roll. You either roll a Gandalf or a 10. In the old rules, different weapons had different chances of doing a wound. So spears had a greater chance of doing a wound than an axe, and they've sort of replicated that in this system, where you can spend, if you get a 6, you can make it a piercing blow. If you're using a sword, you can reduce the number that you need to do on the feat dice by 1, and if you're using a spear, you reduce it by 2. So it means that you'd need, for instance, on the feat dice, you'd need an 8 or better. So an 8, a 9, a 10, or a Gandalf to be able to do a wounding blow with a spear. But that will still cost you the 6 on your
So that's one less success you're going to get overall.
One less sort of thing that you could use for other things. Because
Yeah.
generally speaking, the only thing you could really use successes in first edition was more damage. So what happens is if you use it for more damage, you do an extra strength damage. So you've got 5 strength. So if you're hitting somebody with does 5 damage normally, if you spend a 6, you do 10 damage.
Wow, right.
If you use 2 6s, you do 15 damage. And that was the cap, a maximum of two 6s in first edition. I don't think there's a cap in second edition, or I've not spotted it yet.
Okay. Well, Bruce might have spotted it because he's been revising the rules, because he's going to run us through a bit of this. And I think we're on time. Just quickly, though, anything else we want to say about Adversaries? I mean, what I'm not seeing here is any great dragon Smaug or anything like that.
No, the dragons in this game are very, 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 very scary.
Do they even have stats, or are they?
Yeah, there are some statless creatures, but in first edition you've got stats for Bjorn. You don't want to mess with Bjorn.
Okay.
You've got stats for dragons. Like I got stats for a guy called Raynar, the cold drake, and he's nasty. Over nearly 100 endurance, attribute level. I think he was 9 or 10, and lots of favored skills. Because in the original, in the first edition, you added their attribute level to any favored skill, basically. So it's
cool.
So in other words, they're rolling 3 or 4d6 plus your feat dice plus 10.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Shall we move on then to advancement?
Yep.
So now, Bruce, you pointed out, this is something I entirely missed the point of when I was creating characters, that you start off getting your level 1 advancement straight away at in character generation, and you get. And I don't know whether this is true for the whole thing, but you get rewards and you get virtues. So as your valor goes up, you get rewards, and these are often physical things that are better. So I can't remember. So for the first one I chose, I can't remember. It's one of these is the ones where I chose rather than rolled a dice. But I think actually for this one I rolled a dice. I got a fell weapon, and I've made it a fell spear. And then virtues, it came up with something to do with my shield, and I'm not carrying a shield or something. I can't remember. So
I think that'd be a reward. The reward would be.
You're right. It's physical. So maybe I then rolled again for I'm sure I got something inappropriate for virtues, and then I chose one there, and I chose nimbleness.
Which is a good one. I think I might have chosen that one.
Yeah. So I like those. So two questions I wanted to ask. As you advance up other levels, are there other lists of things to choose from?
Yes.
Cool. And is there a feeling in the narrative that that when you get a fell spear or whatever, that somebody gives it to you actually in the narrative? The GM doesn't just say, take your fell spear. You go to the fell spear shop. But rather somebody says, here, this is the spear owned by Frederick the Fell or whatever.
I don't know if we covered this last time.
I think we did.
One of the things I love about One Ring is the magical items you don't basically find and go, I've got a +5 sword. You have to pay for those magical items using your valor. So anything that you pick up, you have to pay for. Now, there's some advanced magical items in the second edition, which was only in a supplement in the Rivendell supplement in first edition, and the GM has the option of basically creating a list of magical items that the characters have an opportunity of finding as a part of a horde of something that they kill. If they find those items, they then have to basically use their valor to slowly empower it. So it might have four like, or 3. I think it was 3. It might have up to 3 sort of like abilities, and it'll cost you 3 point qualities. Yeah, up to 3 points of valor to basically empower those. So unless you have valor 3, and
so if you've got a bit of valor spare, then you go right. Okay.
Exactly.
By the Legend of Grayskull, and you have the power. You probably don't do that because that's a different franchise.
And also, you could then say if you started with you started with a fell. You said you had a fell
spear. Yeah.
Fell spear. You could have handed that fell spear back to your culture, and somebody else will then pick up that fell spear and use it. So again, it gives you links back to the your where you're from and things like that.
Yeah.
So.
Brilliant.
It's lots of different ways of doing it. You can weave it in so they find it, or you could weave it in that they could, they actually, get given it by somebody. But they still have to empower it by using their valor.
Their valor. Gotcha. And so if you haven't got spare stuff and you pick up the sword and hold it aloft your head and strike by lightning, then you wait and you get valor and then you empower it point by point.
Yes. Or you just basically lose something that you've got, like I said, you started.
You spear back.
You find you find basically Galaborg that's dropped in from Ireland, and you pick up that spear instead. You hand back your fell spear to your culture, and they hand it off to somebody else, basically.
And then you got that point again, then to empower. We gotcha. Yes. Brilliant. Anything you want to say, Bruce, on advancement?
Yeah, I mean, the other part of it is, if you're increasing your valor and even your wisdom will give you more cultural benefits as well. So things, as you're looking at advancement, you will get more options to expand your character, give you options into it. So you're not just getting like the men of Bree, you will get more options other than just what you see in your starting the character advancement. The one thing to be mindful of is if you start having it both wisdom and valor at 5 plus your combat, when your combat proficiency is at 5, you are encouraged to retire your character. That's one of the things. We will get to that more in detail in the fellowship, but just be mindful there is a capping at this point to stop you from being overpowerful into it.
That's not the point of this game, is it? To be
to min-max,
to be the Dark Lord.
No. But yeah, there is quite good options. But yeah, it will be interesting to see where this takes and practice a bit more on the advancement and see where that brings in. And you can just go back and even swap things out as long as Paul was saying, you just bring that into the story, and as we'll probably get to. The fellowship phase would be the best time to do that.
Well, I was going to say we hadn't actually got the fellowship phase listed in our list of topics. Do we need to talk briefly about the fellowship phase? Because we're going to go into combat time. So it's a choice, Bruce. Do you want to run us to combat, or do you want to talk about the fellowship?
Well, I know that one person is interested in the fellowship for a particular reason. I think it would be worth at least quickly going over it.
Okay, then.
Especially for the shadow points, because this is what you're trying to get rid of shadow.
Now, I was loving the idea of shadow. I love the idea that because of, I can't remember whether it's your calling or your cultural.
It's your calling.
It is your calling. Gives you a particular path of shadow. Shadow path. Which is you can predict how you're going to how shadow is going to affect you. I love that. But how do I stop it happening?
You've got to do nice things, basically, and take breaks.
Right. Yes.
So there's 2 basic phases in the game. You've got the adventurous phase, which is the standard. We're going off, traveling, fighting bad guys. And then you've got the fellowship phase, and the fellowship phase is basically downtime. It's enabling the players to go off and do whatever they want. In first edition, that literally was each individual person could go off and do whatever they want, and there was a number of different fellowship sort of like things that you could do. Literally, I've got like 40 or 50 different, a list of 40 or 50 different things that you could do called fellowship undertakings. In second edition, they grouped it into you do it as a group, basically.
Right.
So you go off and do something as a group. And that could be a number of different things that you could go off and do. You could find a new patron, lose shadow. So in other words, go to a lovely place and that's lovely and
Rivendell
Rivendell, or the waterfalls coming out of Esgaroth.
Now I think I have a point, and I don't know where I've written this down, but I remember reading it where I can only lose 1 point of shadow.
Yes, that is a cultural disadvantage of elves. They are weak to shadow, which is why they get tired and go to the west, basically.
Right. Okay, but Bruce, who was it, first of all, that wants us to talk about the fellowship phrase, and what did they want to know?
Well, Paul Watson, which is already on the chat, I see, did want to know about it, and his interest because he was looking at the Adventures in Middle-earth, the 5e version, where when they get to the fellowship phase, you do have these undertakings, as they call them, and everybody just, as he was describing it to us on a chat in the Discord, he was mentioning this is what just everybody does. They don't go away, see the patrons, they don't go around. They're just trying to get rid of shadow points for the next venture. Here, it doesn't come under the undertakings. There is what they call performing updates. This is where you start building up your skills and getting rid of shadow points. You can get rid of between 1, 2, or 3, depending on what you've done in the adventure, to the nice things you have done to combat the shadow off it. There is just one other thing to it. You could cheekily take up to 3 fellowship phases. The third one must be what they call a Yule, which you age.
End of year.
Yeah, and the minimum time that your characters need to spend is 1 week. But the thing is, if you don't do the Yule one, that's where everybody in the undertaking does a company one. It's just one undertaking, and it's for the whole group. Whereas when it gets to the Yule phase, everybody can kind of go and do their own undertaking in a way, and just be mindful of that one as well. So that's really just a highlight coverage of it. And the Yule's the only time you can get rid of something called a shadow scar, which I haven't fully read, but it's not more shadow points. It is something that comes off in your shadow path.
So basically, at any point during a adventuring phase, you can basically get rid of your accumulated shadow and take a shadow scar. A shadow scar basically is permanent shadow. So it counts towards your shadow total. So in other words, effectively your shadow total will only ever go down to 1 if you've got 1 shadow scar.
Gotcha.
Now, you can only get rid of a shadow scar in a Yule phase, which is a new thing. This used to be called permanent shadow, and you couldn't get rid of permanent shadow in the first edition. So they rejigged it a little bit.
Yeah.
So you can now get rid of that permanent shadow using the end of year or Yule fellowship phase.
Got another question about Yule. Do you think the wits-based skill points at Yule is unfair? I don't think so, because I'm sure it can be solved with a song, and my elf can sing. Favoured skill. He has the voice of an angel, and I'll tell you, when I get to the table, I'm going to do all the singing, and everybody's going to have to compliment me, even though they're going to hate it.
I must admit, I haven't spotted that as yet. To do with the wits-based skill points.
So the answer, John, is we don't know.
No, sorry.
And Paul responds to my offer to sing. You haven't even heard me, Paul.
Please, go for it.
I'm not going to go for it. We'll lose all our viewers. And also, we're eating into time that we did say we would dedicate to an encounter. And now we have just 15 minutes, Bruce. Can you do something for us in 15 minutes?
Let's see if I can move the camera. And again, not rude. I'm going to probably move the camera to the other thing, just so we can see a Loki battle map.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I'm going to make you Make
Oh
you
dear,
big.
you're going to make me look like I've got a fat belly sitting in front of a miniatures around a table. In fact, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to swap these around so people can actually see the faces. Whoopsie. And obviously, the elf is in the blue cloak for your elf.
Obviously, yeah.
We've got Boromir to represent Paul's Aaron character. And a sizable counter, you've come across in your adventure phase a couple of orcs carrying a small bag of something small and wriggling inside it.
Ooh.
Oh, that'll be a hobbit, I'm sure.
Well, maybe.
It will be.
And obviously orcs, they're not up for the mood. I know them really would like to hear you sing to orcs. They are just tone deaf to elf music. I'm sorry to say, Matthew, they are just not impressed with your singing.
No, actually, I think of all the races in Middle Earth, it would be the orcs who like my singing. when I was a young man, I was convinced that if I was going to do a film of Lord of the Rings, which somebody apparently has already made one of it, anyway.
Really?
I would have Clannad doing a soundtrack for the elves, and the Pogues doing the soundtrack, particularly the Wildcats of Kilkenny from the Pogues album Rum Sodomy and the Lash. That would be on the soundtrack for the orcs.
Somebody wants to probably share with them.
Now, weirdly, I'm just looking for my D12, and I haven't got one in my bag of dice. How's that happened? Carry on talking while I.
No problem. I am just going to get ready. Shall we? Do you want to do? We'll do a quick volley in this one.
Yes, that's what I want to do because I'm a ranged combat guy. Me,
I definitely am not. So I will get my shield ready and step in front of.
There it is.
There we go.
Haldir. I'll step in front of Haldir to protect him.
They're going to chuck a couple of spears, and I'm just going to.
Now, sadly, one point that I can you've said you're going to step in front of me to protect me, Paul. One of the things I do remember from the rules is I can't carry on taking a sort of what do you call the retreating stance?
The rear guard,
the rear, because I need at least 2 allies to protect me. So I'm going to have to get stuck in with combat when you get stuck in.
I'm just going to, because you raised that for elves, Matthew, one of their, if you raise your wisdom, one of their cultural benefits and virtues is actually you only need one person in front of you to do the rear guard action.
Cool.
So there is if you ever advance it, there is an option.
Smashing. Can I just quickly ask then, how much wisdom do I need to go surfing down a staircase on an orcish shield while shooting my bow?
6, I would say. Actually, you probably just increase 1.
I think it's really 0. I think you need 0 wisdom.
Okay. Anyway, let's carry on. Bruce, take over.
So the counter is, you've come across a couple of orcs across where you're trying to pass over the bridge. They're carrying a small sack, and of course, you're in their way, and they're having none of it. They're determined to try and get past you, so they're going to try and throw a couple of spears at you.
Okay, I'm going to hide behind my shield.
And we both get a chance to do the ranged combat, but Paul, you're not going to do any.
I wasn't carrying a bow because of the load.
Right. Okay. But a bow's only 3 load, mate. Anyway, carry on. Who goes first? Bad guys or good guys?
Good guy. It favors the heroes when reading this.
Excellent.
It tends to favor the heroes quite a lot. So you are always going to roll first. You've got a good chance of taking things out.
So now I'm rolling on my ranged combat. What is that strength still?
Yeah, it's always strength. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the task number of 15 for me.
Plus the parry for an orc is a +1 in this.
+1 for these particular orcs. Do I roll any D6s?
You roll whatever your bow is.
Oh, my bows. I've got 2.
Yeah, so it's your feet dice and your bow is what you're going to be rolling. And you could use spears if you were throwing a spear.
Yeah, my spear is the only other weapon I have, so I'm not going to throw that. And I get one. Hold on, one Hemelin, because these are Moomin dice. And Hemelin is a 12, so that counts as a Gandalf.
Yep.
Oh, that's an
Awesome.
automatic success. Yeah, that's even a piercing as well.
That's piercing.
And no successes on my D6. I've got 6 in total on my D6.
Well, what would automatically happen, because you've got the piercing,
which they've got to roll a protection roll.
Yeah,
Okay.
they got a roll, protection roll, so we're going to find out what they get. So what is the injury on your bow?
My injury on my bow is actually on my PDF. I've got a paper copy here, but I didn't...
14, I think.
Yeah, sounds about right. And I just went past the orcs. Come on, orcs.
I think it's 14.
Yes, it's 14. Yeah.
Yep, and they've got an armor 2.
So they roll 2d6 and
2d6
and the feet dice. So I'm going to use, for the first time, a forbidden lands dice.
Ooh,
that is not very good.
That's rubbish.
That is bad. The one thing, while I'm talking about rolling this, when you're the lore master, Gandalf bad, Sauron good when you're getting symbols. That's the one thing we didn't talk about in the combat when you're the lore master. When you're rolling for your adversaries, Sauron's good for you as an automatic success, and Gandalf is 0. It swaps it around for adversaries. So congratulations, you have taken out one of the orcs.
I love this game.
Well,
how many XP do I get? No, we're not.
No, we don't do this. But of course, I'm a cheating GM.
Okay.
And there's a
you're going to give us more.
Yeah, there was one hidden in the bridge that's just popped over. You killed his mate.
Okay.
That's a cheat, because otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to totally massacre this orc.
No, let's go. That's fine. That's fine. I think it was 3 orcs. We didn't see it beforehand.
Yeah. And this one isn't going to fire his spear, but we're going to do in retaliation.
Yep.
Because you took out the one that take out yourself, Matt.
Yeah.
Where this orc is going to throw his spear at Aaron.
Mate.
Yep. So he's got a spear of 2. I'm just going to try and get it.
And my parry is 17.
17.
Oh, sorry, no, it isn't. It's 20. Sorry, it's 20.
Come on, 11s. Well, it was a good job you said it was 20 and not 17, because that was 18.
Yes, well, I've got a shield. I forgot I've got my great shield. So because I got my.
So what did you actually roll to get that 18? Just explain that to our audience.
So I rolled the feet dice, which gave me 8, and because they've got 2, I got 2 5s.
2 5s, right? So 10 on your
10 on the success
skill
dice.
Yeah,
good roll.
It's a good roll.
Yep,
but not good enough. Oh.
Nope.
So that is the volley over. Normally you get probably about 1 round of volley in this.
Yeah.
And let's just get all up and close and personal.
Into their grills.
Okay. Now, just a point of interest here. Obviously, I dropped my bow and I unsheathed my spear from its fastenings across my back. Does that take me in action? You know, what? How does that work in this game? Well, I couldn't see anything that said it did.
So actually what would happen is you've got 2 actions. So in the volley phase, you've got your main combat that you can do. And you get what you call a secondary action. And that is where you could do, you're swapping your weapons. You're dropping something. So as you say, I fire my bow, but here's another arc.
I shoot my bow.
Close. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm pedantic on that.
But they're getting close. So you've decided, right, I'm not going to use the bow anymore. I'm going to drop this, and I've got this nice shiny spear. Let's get up close and personal.
Right.
And,
well, the idea of the spear is actually to keep them about a spear's length away, as opposed to up close and personal.
Yeah. Well, yes. But unfortunately, it doesn't quite describe that in the combat the way I've been reading it.
No, it all depends on which stance that we choose depends on how up close and personal they get basically.
Right. Yeah.
And that is what we're going to now do with the combat. So you now choose your stance.
Oh God, I can't remember because I'd chosen my stance. It was going to be the ranged combat one.
Your options are forward, open, or defensive.
Okay, now tell me a little bit about your character because everybody's heard about mine, Paul.
Okay, I'm playing Ain. He is a barding shield warrior. He fights with a shield and sword, protects his followers and his friends. Quite persuady, light-hearted, generally nice bloke to be around unless you're an orc.
Okay, so this is going to have an influence on the role I'm going to do. As a warden, I'm kind of sworn to protect the weak and powerless. You are neither of those things, and you're all about protection yourself. So yes. I think my stance is going to be full on. The protectee has got to be the thing in the bag.
Thing in the bag.
And so I'm going to charge in.
I am going forward as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so both open. So for the people listening in, that means you'll get +1 to your dice. But when your opponents, if you don't get rid of them, they'll get +1 to their attack dice in retaliation.
Okay, and just that's not +1 point. That's 1 extra d6, right?
1 extra dice, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you chose the open, you get no bonus from either side, and defense means you roll 1 less dice, but so does the opponent fighting you.
Okay.
And there is. So again, it favors the players for the way I'm reading this. I talked a little bit about.
I think you're right.
Okay, so I'm going to do attempting something a little different.
Okay.
I'm going to invoke my tall distinctive feature and spend a point of hope because I'm going to attempt to awe the orcs, which is a intimidate foe combat task.
So with some vicious battle cry or something.
Yes, so I'm basically attempting to make it an awe roll as my main action. Now I have 2 dice in awe, but because I'm inspired. If Bruce agrees that tall will make me inspired.
Yeah, let's see how this goes because this is actually would be a good example of a skill roll as well.
Yep. So I will roll 4 dice.
I will just say we're coming up to 3 minutes to 9.
It's okay.
Don't worry.
We can overrun a bit. Good.
Yeah, a little bit. So I got a total of 10 on the main dice.
Yeah.
And a total of 19 in total, which beats my strength target number.
Now, I will say, just coming back to the beginning of this, they said, it's going to be really easy to work out how, against your target number. You're not going to have to total the dice. At a glance, you'll know. And so far, the rolls I've done, I've gone, no, I'm going to count all these D6.
Yeah, you do. I agree with that. That even when I first read that, I went, nope.
Sometimes it gets a bit quicker. I'm a little bit out of practice with dice rolling. So I've been playing lots of games where I don't have to.
Where you're the GM and they're player facing. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Then you made your roll. You got 19.
On a successful, they lose 1 hate or resolve point.
Yeah. So they are down 1 hate point each. And if, just for the people listening, hate can be used by myself I can spend a hate point on them to increase a dice, like the way that you spend hope. Or if they get down to 0 hate, they run away.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a good point. They start off with 3 in this.
Maybe I should sing to them after all.
I think that gives them hate. I'm afraid to say. I'm sure Paul will agree with me on that one. So let's say that you did that. In fact, that would probably be a good example. Instead of you doing the volley on the fire, that was probably quite a good action to do.
Instead of volley.
So in the volley phase,
in the volley round, I could have used
done that.
Okay.
Yeah, that could have worked as well. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I guess it happens at range, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So I'm not going to muck around with rebel yells because I sing like Clanad. But as I sing like Clanad, I'm stabbing them with a spear.
Okay, and just again +1.
Oh, I love this dice. It's moving again. Hemelin. So that's a 12.
Oof.
And
Nice.
I also got a 6. And I got on my other 3 dice, I got another 8 points. So 12, 26 in total, and a success, an elven rune.
Yeah. So your success, you could either do more endurance points, but it sounds like you're going to give him a wound. I think I'm just going to check again because I'm going to have to roll all the way back to. I had all these pages linked, and now I've got the links wrong.
So you got 4 options of things that you can do. You can do a heavy blow, which does an additional damage equal to your strength. You can do fend off. In other words, you can spend the success dice to get an additional +2 parry against the person who next attacks you. You can do a pierce. You can attempt to do a bit more of a piercing blow, but you've got that already, so it's pointless. Or you could do a shield thrust, which means you can basically knock them back, but you haven't got a shield.
I don't do shields.
So it does sound like a heavy blow would probably be your benefit. But again, the choice is yours. You are the player.
Okay, so I've got an injury anyway. They're going to be making an injury roll against me, aren't they? And this is my fell spear, and it's 2-handed. So I believe that's 18 that they've got to beat there. I'll just do the extra damage. So what's that?
So it's your strength.
Yeah, it's equal to your strength. So it's your.
So instead of 4, which is what the damage of the spear is, I do 9 points of damage.
Yeah, so 9 points to their endurance, and they have 12. So if you did another 3 or another one, they would have been out automatically. I'm going to, just for the benefit, I'm going to spend a hate on his defense just to try and get 3 dice and see if I can stop this. I'll try and get this in there. Knowing me, I will probably just waste the dice roll. Oh, well, yeah, that it was 18 I was looking for.
10 again on the dice, and
it was 18. So I spent 1 hate to give me an additional dice. Normally they roll 2.
Yeah.
The reason I'm rolling 3 d6 is I spent a hate, which gives me a +1 dice. And I rolled the fate dice. I got the result was 6 on my fate dice. Another 2 5s.
So that's another 10.
And a whopping 1. Note to self: never play against my rolling dice. So
this is remarkable. But my moving dice are my new top set of polyhedrals now.
So, Paul, would you like to have a go?
Okay, I will. As I said, I've got my longsword out. I will attempt to smack this thing. It's got a parry of 1, hasn't it? So it increases my target number by 1. So I need a 16, and I missed. I got a total of 12.
That is not good. So they are going to roll. There's
do I not get a second skill? Second action?
You get to second action, but it's not technically a combat action. So...
That's fine. I just want to turn, as every elf does, to their combat companion and say 2.
2-0. Yeah. I sort of like smile and say, yeah, well done.
Okay, carry on, orc. Come and attack us.
Come on. So the orc and this one, I'll also make him spend a hate point.
Another hate point.
Okay.
So he's already got +1 for his.
Which I forgot to roll with my additional dice, but never mind. That's my mistake.
Oh, I definitely rolled.
Was it a Sauron that you got when you rolled?
No. I got a 7.
So he's going to spend a hate. So in total, he's going to be rolling 4 dice. Yeah.
4 skill dice and his.
Oh, unbelievable! So I don't even need to know that this has missed you. 6 on the fate dice, 3 on one of the fate dice and 3 ones.
See, you can tell at a glance.
You can't tell enough.
That misses the 20 that he needed.
Yeah. Unbelievable. And he spent a hate. So if you can get, you've got a secondary action where you could try and do something.
I don't think I can do like the
not
forwards.
Really. It tends to be like looking for opponents. It tends to be like
could he not do a I mean, maybe you can't do this twice, but you did your battle cry beforehand and you intimidate. Could you try that again?
Can't do that again. That's a full action.
Right, gotcha.
Full action.
Yeah. I will. I'll just basically move around him, so he's caught between us. Basically, putting him, attempting to put him off guard. Which you can potentially sometimes roll a battle dice to attempt him to get him into a bad position, basically. Do you
want to try that? Do you want?
Yeah,
try the battle just for.
I will attempt to a battle roll. I've got 2 dice in battle, and that's a Gandalf. So Gandalf a 4 and a 1. So yes, again I get him in some sort of bad position. Up to you what
I would say means. He's actually disabled because he's standing on his mate here. Because you probably
rough ground.
Yeah, rough ground.
Because there's 2 mates stacked down there. Remember?
Well, I probably the other one's over there, but he's just stumbled a bit, or maybe the bridge has got a little loose. He's found the one pothole in that bridge, so he is disadvantaged now from it. Going forward, he is not going to survive this.
No, but we'll let Killer go first.
Yeah, so we're effectively down to another round.
Yep.
I'm just checking on the stances. You didn't get the ability to do the special thing with your stances because there is a
the forward stance is basically intimidate foe, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, but you have to use a main action for that. I think
you have to use that as a main action. Yeah.
Yeah.
And bear in mind,
could I do that now just to demonstrate how that goes?
Yeah.
It's a full action. Yeah, if you want to try it, it's awe.
Okay, so I've got. It's not a favored skill, but I think I have 2 dice in awe. Let me just check. Yeah, I've got 2 dice in awe, so that gives me a bit of a chance. I'm in forward stance, so do I still get my extra dice on that one?
No.
Okay.
It just enables you to use it.
Just enables you, and I don't have to spend hope or anything like that.
You don't have to. Just if you do, you get bonus dice. So
yeah, you get 1 unless you can mark it with a distinction.
But you've already awed him once, and he's taken and he's spent a couple of points of hate. So, frankly, I think I'm on to a winner here.
Yeah.
Although no, this damned 12-sided dice, I hate it. It's just rolled an 11.
Ooh.
11, and I got a total of 8 points on my success dice.
So that's bad.
That is bad. Well, that is still generally it's a 0, but
it's a 0. But if you fail the roll, isn't it like a fumble?
It's a fumble if you are miserable.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you get the Siren dice, it's typically 0 from what I've read in the alpha rules.
Yes, it might be. I might be thinking of first edition. I apologize.
Yeah. No, it's fine because it's a good way to compare. But if you are, and I need to check, I think it is when you're miserable, then you start getting
if you roll it, you get an automatic fail if you roll a
Otherwise, it just counts as a 0. So you could still succeed on your
if I've got enough points on my other dice. Yeah. What did I need to get to awe him?
That would be your target number, strength target number.
15. Yeah. So I'm well off that.
Yep. So I will try to basically hack him as he's disadvantaged.
Yep.
And disadvantage, you get to roll 2d12s now, right? Is that giving you the advantage?
use the additional dice, so it's down to Bruce to determine how many additional dice I get.
Oh,
I'm going to say that body's an additional 1 for
One
now. Let's
dice.
just do 1. It's usually 1 or 2 in this situation.
So that's a total of 21, which hits, and I've got a 6. So I'm going to basically invoke additional damage, which means I do a total of 10 damage to him.
Ooh.
On the endurance. So he's down to 2 left. So that is interesting. You're still sticking to all out battle forward?
I'm still sticking to forward. Yep.
Yeah, we should make it clear where this is the second round of the combat to full listening. So he gets through. I can't really spend
his last point of hope because he'll run it.
Yeah, he'll run. So
he can spend it, but he'd then be running straight away afterwards.
Yeah, you know what? Because it's just for the time, he's going to spend it. Maybe he's hoping to do damage, and then he's going to bolt because he's only one left here.
Yeah. Desperation. I can imagine him just doing that.
So 20. He's going to try and go for it. Oh, that would be so good if he was a hero. So that's a 12. That's absolutely
it's still 12 points to you, though, isn't it? Oh no, it's a 0.
No, it counts
zero. It's a 0.
Yeah.
It counts as a 0 for.
Still got a possibility of getting me though.
6.
Well, yeah, I've got 2 5s again, 1 6, and a whopping 1. I love my
same as last time.
So you're very lucky. So even that success doesn't give me anything to do appears or anything because I did not pass the roll. And he's had enough. He bolts. He drops the sack, and inside, unsurprisingly, you find a little hobbit who gives them a cheeky wee thumbs and sticks the tongue out.
Excellent.
Brilliant.
Now, if we got
that was a 2-1 to you, I believe.
Yes, indeed. I always knew it would be. Well, hold on. You didn't take this man down. That orc down. He ran away from the 2 of us.
He ran away from me. You didn't seem to do anything to him.
After my rebel yell, I went.
Obviously, yes. It was definitely after your yell. So we'll call it 3-0 then.
No, it's okay. We can share him. That's what I'm saying.
And this is where the shadow points start turning up because you start arguing with each other.
No. We're happily compromising.
I wasn't arguing. I was being very conciliatory.
Now, thank you very much, Bruce, for doing that. Shall we bring you back up into the real world? There are just a couple of other questions I wonder if we can cover off really quickly. So actually, John, this isn't a question. This is just saying, finally, during each Yule Fellowship phase, all the players earn a number of additional skill points equal to their Avengers Wits rating. So then I could, if we're going traveling, these are points I could spend on getting travel and things like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I need to check. I think that's under the undertaking, so that's one of the things you could do. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'm sure I saw another question. Give me a moment. Can you use, says Mohammed, can you use the environment as a weapon?
I would say improvise, yeah, because there's things. The one thing we didn't talk about combat, if you don't have weapons or it's mentioned in there, is daggers or anything pretty much improvised or like a bare knuckle bar fight brawl. There is a brawling combat proficiency, and it takes from your highest one -1 dice for your brawling. So that's what you use if you're trying to throw a stone, like we see in Merry and Pippin when they're on Treebeard and they're throwing the stones, they hit something. But mind you, I should also mention, hobbits have a special ability when they throw stones. They cause pretty lethal damage with them. But there are things in there that you could use it. And if you're very clever, maybe you create a disadvantage or you're using something else as the environment. So if you're fighting and trying to gain the higher ground, I don't know what silly film would ever make a reference to that. You do gain additional dice from that side as well.
And finally, just one question, which may be a little unfair on this alpha version, but I'll ask it anyway. Comes from John. I guess it's directed more to you, Paul, because you're the old One Ring hand. But is there something or anything you miss in this alpha edition? Is there some rule that you think has changed for the worse?
Again, I don't know how travel's going to work until I see it hit the table.
It looks scary, but you want to play it through, yeah.
Yeah. Plus, also, I'm not sure about the way you can recover hope, but the Francesco was talking about possibly changing that. I don't think there's anything really missing. I'll be honest, I miss the Wilderland because I think Mirkwood is just the perfect setting for this game. I love the Shire and all that, and they covered it in first edition with the Bree supplement and the Barrow Downs and the Old Forest and all that sort of area. But I think Wildland is, and especially the way they originally set it, was just the perfect setting. I understand why they can't now, because obviously I'm guessing copyright and they don't want to go over old ground, so they want to produce new stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
so just briefly on that one. How easy? You've got all that stuff. So if you want to set your campaign in the Wilderland, you've got the source material. How easy is it going to be to convert all the stats and things?
I think it's pretty simple. I think that the only thing that they're missing in the some things that they're missing. There's no spiders. They haven't given rules for spiders. They haven't given rules for. There was something else that was missing. I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, there's no spiders at all, which are like a quite iconic enemy, and they're missing in the rules. And there was another one as well, which I can't remember off the top of my head which one it was. But yeah, just a few enemies.
Well, I know you've got an early start in the morning, Paul, so we ought to draw this to a conclusion. Just one more word to you, Bruce. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, I think I'm quite excited to see where this goes. Like yourself, Matthew, I initially thought I was going to get it for a nice pre-book, but after going through the alpha rules, I really kind of want to get to the table. Yeah, I might get to the table and run it as a lore master.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling that we ought to maybe do something with it as well in the Effect podcast.
I love this game.
Right. Wait, no, you love this game. The thing is, this book club has converted two of us into loving it too.
Yeah. Awesome.
Brilliant. Okay, and that should be the note upon which we end. So thank you very much to our live listeners. We shall see you again, reconvene another book club when the moment arises. But from now, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.